Epictetus says, if you want to do something, make a habit of it. And what I urge you to recognize beyond that is that if you want to be something, make being a habit. Make the things that you do on a daily basis the life that you are living. And when you are living in accordance with who you want to be, you are making being a habit, and it will happen for you. Oh, good morning. My voice still hasn't really come back, so that was kind of embarrassing. Little ASMR segment. It is really early for me to be having a seltzer. It's 10:30, but also it feels like I've kind of lived like a whole day because I'm on this new little like routine or schedule or whatever where I wake up, I go for a walk, I get some morning sunlight to reset my circadian rhythm. Hashtag Andrew Huberman, thank you. I come back, I shower, I do a cold shower. I'm on day 10 of cold shower, and then I deleted Instagram. So, while I didn't technically delete Instagram, I just refused to use it. I have the same amount of time, but time feels longer. So, I did all of that, and I came back, and I did my dishes, and I put away my clothes, and I read, and I made a tea, and I'm now filming a video, and it feels very productive, but not stressful. And when I used social media, I was constantly distracting myself. I had less time, and so 10:30 now feels a little bit like noon, which is kind of cool if you think about it. But we're not here to talk about my seltzer. We're not here to talk about the fact that I still don't have a voice. We're not here to talk about cold showers or 2023. We're here to talk about 2022 and to do a reflection on the last year of my life and the things that I learned, the things that I did, the things that I experienced, and ultimately, I'm doing this, I think, because I like to have these types of videos on my channel. They're bookmarks. They're great opportunities to kind of intentionally look back and see what year we had. And I'm not looking back in the intention of trying to, pick apart what I liked about the year and what I didn't like about the year. I really just wanted to kind of sit for a few minutes and journal and then discuss here and talk here about the year that I did have. And hopefully in reflecting on that, you take a few minutes to do that, and it helps kind of guide the next year that you have, or you get to just be at least proud of what you did. And I remember in the beginning of 2022 making a video where I, not unlike this one, sat in my apartment, although it was a different apartment at the time, and I looked way different, and I was in a totally different state of mind, which, another digression, but every single year of my life, I look back and I'm like, wow, I do not recognize that girl. I do not know what version of myself that was. It continuously happens, and I don't know why it continues to amaze me. It doesn't surprise me, but I just wonder in a year what I'll think of who I am today, because I feel like things are pretty good, knock on wood. But I sat down at the beginning of 2022 and I made a list of goals, of business goals, of personal goals, of relational goals that I had for the year. And I haven't looked back on that list in a little bit of time, but I can tell you that a lot of what I thought I was going to do, I didn't do. I was very focused on areas that I think ended up ultimately not being really important to me. But the one that I did write in there that was extraordinarily important became the highlight, the context for my entire last year of my life. And honestly, I think it changed my life completely. And it was learning to date myself, learning to spend time with myself and set up dates. Taking myself on dates. I remember when I set that goal for 2022, I said I have to take myself on one date a month. And the reason that I said one date a month was because at that time, I couldn't even bear the thought of doing that once every 30 days, showing up for myself, buying myself a latte, taking myself to a new restaurant, going for a road trip, just doing something that I would hope that somebody in the past would do for me. I wanted to be able to do for myself. And I remember in the beginning when I did that in January and February and March, it was so uncomfortable for me. It was so unfamiliar and it didn't feel good. And it was just really, really hard. And it wasn't something that I looked forward to. It was kind of something that made me roll my eyes like, here we go again. I have to take myself out to coffee. But eventually that became my new normal. Went from something that I was really afraid of to something that I thoroughly enjoyed up until the point where I remember looking back. It was April or May, and I hadn't actually set a conscious date on the calendar. But the reason that I hadn't done that isn't because I had given up on the goal. It's because all of a sudden, my weekends transformed. They morphed into these pockets of time where everything was about filling my cup. And so it wasn't just like, let's suffer through this 2-hour coffee date. It became, well, where's the next cafe that we can go? And where do we want to go that we haven't gone yet? And do you want to take yourself shopping? And I just started to fill my cup like a madman, to the point where my weekends were literally just about serving myself and filling my own cup. So the goal that was set, that initially was like, just do this once a month, do this 12 times a year, I can't even delineate anymore the times that I was doing that, because I became the kind of person who was just showing up for myself all of the time. That's one of the major tenets of my year, is just learning to date myself. And, it comes back to the beginnings of that goal really were me at the time still reeling from my past relationship that had ended about 5 or 6 months before that. And this is the moment when, again, when we go through hardships, we go through tough times, it's so hard to kind of find the meaning in the hardship while we're experiencing it. Hindsight is beautiful for that very reason. I'm so glad that I had that partnership. I'm so glad for the experience of being fully loved. But then I'm also equally as glad that I had that opportunity for my ex-partner at the time to realize that I wasn't enough for her, and to be told that my love wasn't enough, because when I failed to be enough for my partner, I had to teach myself to be enough for me. So thank you, Emily, if you are watching this. You helped change my life. The other really important thing that happened was that I sort of graduated from therapy. I had the last session with my therapist in the end of March of 2022. I had gotten myself to a part of my life where I was stabilized post-breakup, and I was feeling good, and everything was kind of clicking, and I had experienced this positive momentum, and there was no reason to continue on. You can always kind of go back and rehash some traumas and experiences and learn new insights, but I got myself to a stable and healthy level, a mindful level where life was just kind of grooving for, I think, the first time in my life. And I said, look, I'm good. We're good. We don't need to do this anymore. And that was also a huge win. Now let's go back to those dates for a second, because the dates that I started to take myself on and learning to date myself is really what created the foundation and the groundwork for the year of just self-love and befriending myself that I had, which 2022, if I had to name it, it's the year of learning self-love. It's the year of befriending myself, learning how to spend quality time with myself, not just being by myself, but with myself, learning how to be able to sit in a room alone and not just tolerate that, but now actively enjoy it. I remember telling my friend Taylor, not even that long ago, maybe 4 months ago, that I can't read in my apartment because I'm just so triggered by the feeling of not moving and by sitting with myself alone. And I needed a playlist or some music to put on in the background, but I woke up this morning and I just sat down on my little chair and I sat in the sun, and it's just silent, and I'm reading, and I can literally hear my voice, my reading voice. I have a reading voice now. I can hear the author's tone as I read in my head silently. And in the past, I'd be so overstimulated and so high-strung and unable to sit with myself that I couldn't even hear that voice. I'd be constantly spreading myself thin. But I've learned how to spend really good quality time with myself and be there with myself and love all of that time so much. And so how did we get there? We got there by starting with these solo dates. Something that I could have never imagined the impact that would have had on my life when I set that up. I just said I need a hard goal. I need to do something that's a little tough. And if I force myself to commit to something and it's approachable enough, right? I didn't say I have to take myself on a date every single week because I knew I wouldn't do that. It became the most important part of my life, because as I started to show up for myself and I gave myself the permission to show up for myself and to spend money on myself and to do all of these things that I would have never, ever done for myself, because my ego comes in and it says, you're not worthy of love. You're not worthy of being filled, of attention, of tenderness, of showing up for yourself. That's not for you. We're self-abusers. We put ourselves down. We punish. Everything is hard. Learning to disempower that voice and instead give voice and power to the other version of me that says, I want this, I want that. And becoming the kind of person where that's safe to say, because I'm going to show up and I'm going to answer it and I'm going to listen to her when she says, I want to go try this new coffee shop, or I want to get the $7 latte. I don't want to get the black drip coffee. Listening to her and showing her, hey, if you have a want, you have a need, and you're vocalizing that to me, I respect you enough to take you seriously and act on it. And I became somebody who was willing and able to give myself what I wanted. And over time, that expansion just further expanded, and it became self-expansion to an almost like undefinable degree. It's just more and more and more of filling my own cup and of showing up for myself and saying, the limit doesn't exist for what I can give to myself. Let's keep going. I started to feel like I was really, really nourishing myself. And as I nourished myself and I showed up and I gave myself that time investment, that love investment, that financial investment, not judging myself or saying I don't deserve a $7 latte. The more that I showed up for myself in all of those buckets, the further I expanded, the bigger risks I was willing to take, the more time I was willing to invest within myself. And all of that kind of led me to wanting to spend more money on myself and spend more time with myself and do crazier things, and realizing like, look, I'm single. I love myself now. I'm learning how to love myself and spend good quality time with myself. Like, what have I always wanted to do that I've just never really done because I've been letting myself be distracted by filling other people's cups? And then I started to do things like, travel across state borders for a cup of coffee and this fun stuff, and to go hiking and, to like say there is no limit. There's no limit on what I can do. And ultimately, all of that led me to the summer when I had that week of PTO from work that I needed to use up, and asking myself, giving myself the permission to really lean in and say, what do I want this week to look like? How much money am I willing to spend on myself? What do I really want a week of vacation to be like? What does a week of vacation feel like in my body? Where do I envision myself going and spending that time? And ultimately, we've been through this story in many different versions and ways that I've told it, but it led me to Utah, it led me to Moab, and it led me to a week where I said, you know what? I've done all of this already. Why can't I go live in a cabin in the woods, in a hostel, in the middle of the desert, alone for a week? That doesn't feel crazy to me anymore. I feel like I can do that because I slowly adjusted myself to the point where that was accessible to me. I was willing to take a leap of faith on myself. And that trip changed my life. Fundamentally, the people that I met, the things that I did, the realization that the comfort zone is something that I can break past. I went base jumping, and that literally changed my life. And everybody that I met out there quite literally changed my life. And I came back from that trip and I said, that's what it looks like when your purpose is in your heart and you're actualizing it and you're living it every day. The guides on the river and the base jumping instructor and everybody that I met was just so on the pulse of being exactly where they wanted to be, doing exactly what they wanted to be doing, like living out their own personal dream. And it clicked for me, and I said, I gotta start writing my memoir. And so going on that trip allowed me to come back and say, I know what I gotta do. I know that I'm a writer. I know I was put here to write this book, and I just gotta do it. And I got back from Utah, And basically every single day of my life since then, I've written pages or words, or I've spent time staring at my Google Doc writing this memoir. And that would have never happened if I wasn't the type of person who was willing to take myself on these dates that at the time that I came up with that idea was so benign, to being willing to take massive leaps of faith for myself, and then to come back and feel like, look, if I have the courage to jump off of a mountain, what can't I do? And I would have never known that about myself had I not done it and had I not been there. And so you understand why hindsight is such a beautiful thing. I drove myself to Maine and New Hampshire, and I stayed in bed and breakfasts and hostels, and I didn't go camping this year. I thought I was going to do that, but definitely in 2023 I will. I went skydiving. I went to my first abortion protest rally. I allowed myself to kind of let my inner child come through, and I opened my throat chakra, and my throat chakra is open now because I'm writing and I'm communicating, and I learned to set boundaries. There's just so many firsts that happened in 2022 in terms of new travel and new experiences. But it led me to writing my memoir, and that's exactly how I'm starting 2023 now, is just very focused and feeling like I'm living in the vein of my purpose, and the world is such a comforting, safe feeling place. And I hit the bed at the end of my night every single night now. You know, if I have a shitty day or a hard day or I don't feel good, I don't feel like I don't know why I'm here. I don't feel like I struggle with that anymore. I'm like, it could be a really hard day. At least I know that I have a book that I'm writing. At least I know why I'm here. At least I know that this is what I was put here to do, and I'm doing it. 2022, the reason why it was so special is because it was the year that I gave myself the permission to be whole. You know, implicit in everything that I've said so far is this feeling that I've lived my whole life, which is that I'm just here in the shadows. I've lived a shadow life. I've lived in the shadow of the people around me who I felt like deserved the limelight. I've lived in the shadow of people whose traumas seem to be more intense than mine, more crisis mode than mine. I've tried to be a people pleaser, and I never set boundaries, and I just wanted love and attention and this feeling of being in belonging. And all of those caused me to have a very external, outward view of the world. What can I do out there to soothe my in here? And 2022 was the year that I gave myself the permission finally to be whole. It's the year where I said, I deserve the $8 latte. It's the year where I said, I'm going to fill my own cup because I deserve to feel at love and hopeful in myself and not at war with myself. It's the year that I'm going to be just beaming with joy and love and fill my cup to the brim from the inside out. It's the year that I gave myself the permission to be whole. And I think that energy is the ultimate energy that is carrying me now through everything that I do in my life, with myself, with other people, with my writing, with the projects that I sign up for, with the work that I do, with who I am, my character. It's giving myself the permission to show up for myself fully and wholly and say, I deserve to be whole. And that honestly is something that I never thought I'd be able to say, but I can now. I think there's a lot of things that maybe we think we won't ever be able to say about ourselves, but we can if we just put in the work and we believe in ourselves. And the way that I want to wrap up this video is by sharing a quote with you from Epictetus, who is a Stoic philosopher from, I honestly don't know where, but he was one of the OG Stoics. And he said, capability is confirmed and grows in its corresponding actions, walking by walking and running by running. Therefore, if you want to do something, make a habit of it. If you want to be a runner, you have to run. If you want to walk, you have to walk. There's no way to circumvent becoming who we want to be other than through doing the work to become them. And so I will raise this quote one step further. Epictetus says, if you want to do something, make a habit of it. And what I urge you to recognize beyond that is that if you want to be something, make being a habit. Make the things that you do on a daily basis the life that you are living. And when you are living in accordance with who you want to be, you are making being a habit, and it will happen for you. And you deserve to feel whole and full, and you deserve to be everything that you've always wanted to be. We all can be the best and brightest versions of ourselves. It will look different. We all have different goals and dreams and aspirations and visions. But I promise you, no matter what that looks like to you, no matter what that dream world looks like, A, you can have it, and B, you deserve it. With that being said, I'm going to wrap up the video here. Thank you so much for being here and for being part of my journey in my life. I love all of you so much from the bottom of my heart. And let's keep this thing going. Let's keep this thing rocking. And let's do this whole life thing with a little bit of joy and a little bit of smiling and a whole lot of purpose and a whole lot of love. I'll talk to you next week. Goodbye.